No one despised him more than Carol Bernett. Carolaton is the place of Carol Burnett's birth. Burnett was born in San Antonio, Texas, on April 26, 1933, coming from a family that struggled financially and had alcoholic parents. She had a tough upbringing. In a small apartment in Los Angeles, Burnett's grandma raised her primarily. She learned to cope with her hardships by drawing on her creativity and sense of humor, which she used to delight herself and her classmates with her imitative skills and humorous acts. Attending UCLA with the intention of majoring in journalism was the beginning of Burnett's meteoric rise to stardom. A passion for the stage, though, swiftly shifted her focus. A turning point occurred when an unnamed donor bestowed upon her a quantity of money that enabled her to go to New York City in pursuit of a theater career, with the stipulation that she would recompense the favor by assisting another individual in need at a later date. This selfless deed would come to represent Burnett's philosophy on life and work, a foundation in gratitude, kindness, and paying it forward. Burnett entered the market in the 1950s, television via guest spots on discussion and variety shows, most famously The Gary Moore Show, where her expressive face, comic timing, and physical comedy skills set her apart. I Embarrassed Myself in Front of John Foster Dulles was her big performance, displayed her comic timing, creativity, and boldness in parodying even the most surprising topics. The audience related to her sincerity and her talent for which would later become her defining characteristics. A professional career highlight The Carol Bernett Show, which debuted on CBS in 1967, brought life. During an era when men predominated over television variety shows, Burnett broke barriers by becoming the first female host of a long-running primetime variety sketch program. The 11 seasons of the show that ended in 1978 were a brilliant fusion of biting satire, superb musical numbers, unforgettable sketches, and well-developed characters, many of which have endured the test of time. Whether it was playing the role of the perpetually disheveled Eunice in the family comedy, or the wonderfully uncomfortable secretary, Mrs. Wiggins, or engaging in intricate spoofs of classics like Went with the Wind, she was always a hit. Burnett proved to have in her skill with unmatched versatility and bravery. She created unforgettable moments in television history with the chemistry she had with her ensemble cast, which included Harvey Korman, Vicki Lawrence, Tim Conway, and Lyle Wagner. Off-screen, Burnett became known for her distinctive audience Q&A sessions that would start each episode, friendliness and ease of access. She would emerge from her dressing room in her ball gown, take questions from the crowd, and answer with candor, humor, and an abundance of anecdotes. Her candor made the audience feel as though they were her closest friends. Multiple Golden Globes, Emmys, and the Presidential Medal of Freedom were among the many honors bestowed upon Burnett over her illustrious career. In addition to the Mark Twain Prize for American Humor in 2013, she was also honored with the Kennedy Center Honors in 2003, further solidifying her reputation as a cultural pathfinder and comedic genius. Allowed numerous women to enter the entertainment industry, Burnett has shown incredible bravery in the face of personal adversity. In addition to her professional successes, she suffered through the 2002 cancer death of her daughter, Carrie Hamilton, among other family catastrophes. Subsequently, she has made public appearances share their stories of loss, overcoming adversity, and finding humor as a medicine, encouraging and uplifted those going through tough times. Her autobiographies, including This Time Together and One More Time, provide honest and moving accounts of her life, work, and the individuals who had an impact on it. Carol Burnett's impact is noticeable in almost all areas of entertainment and comedy. Her talent for combining physical comedy with insightful character-driven comedy has served as an inspiration to artists such as Tina Fey and Kristen Wiig, among many others. Plus, her groundbreaking work as a female host in a traditionally male-dominated industry is far from over. Ring true as an emblem of the boundless potential that can be achieved through skill, resolve, and elegance. Her humorous spark has never faded, as she keeps appearing in films and TV shows well into her twilight years, much to the joy of fans. Many aspects of Carol Burnett's life, particularly her marriages, influenced the woman she became. In the background of the renowned television and comedy star, her first husband, Don Soyan, was someone she met while in college. A new chapter in Burnett's young adult life began on December 15, 1955, when the couple tied the knot. When this happened, Burnett had only begun to construct her professional life and negotiating the transition into maturity. However, they divorced in 1962 after enduring difficulties in their partnership. During this time, Burnett laid the groundwork for what would become a complicated career in show business, which coincided with her steady ascent to stardom. Emotional stability in the face of her expanding work responsibilities. Meeting Joe Hamilton was a turning point in Burnett's life that occurred soon after her divorce from Soyan, the guy who had a major impact on her life and work. Hamilton, whom she wed on May 4, 1963, was Hamilton. Joe has extensive experience. As a television producer, he brought another layer of intricacy and depth to their mixed family dynamic. As a divorced father of 8 children, he already had a foot in the entertainment industry's door because he was Kip Hamilton's brother. Their professional partnership started when Hamilton staged Burnett's 1962 Carnegie Hall concert, which was a smashing success and highlighted her musical and comedic talents to an enthralled audience. A lifelong partnership was born out of this initial collaboration, an important result of Hamilton's work on a number of Burnett's undertakings, chief among them The Carol Bernett Show, which went on to become a legendary television variety show. They were more than simply a married couple. They were a creative team that helped propel Burnett to greater heights in his career. They raised a family and dealt with the stresses of Hollywood together. Coupling the stresses of television production with those of a busy home life was no easy feat, especially considering the couple's 3 daughters. The marriage between Burnett and Hamilton was not trouble-free, even though they seemed to have the ideal partnership. They separated in separation in 1984, following a relationship spanning over 20 years. Managing their daughter Carrie's battles with substance abuse was one of the most difficult obstacles they faced. Burnett and Hamilton's desire to help other parents through this difficult time originated from their own experiences. At a period when such talks were typically taboo, they spoke frankly about the difficulties of coping with addiction inside the family. In addition, they demonstrated their commitment to recovery by actively participating in fundraising efforts for Carrie's treatment center. Dedication, not just to their daughter but also to serving the community, as a powerful act of unity and restoration. Burnett and Carrie went to Moscow in 1988 to help establish the very first chapter of Alcoholics Anonymous in the Soviet Union. For Burnett, this journey was a metaphor for his commitment to removing the stigma associated with addiction on a global scale, providing global assistance to recovery movements. This action demonstrated her desire to use her fame for something other than fame and fortune. A sad chapter in Burnett's life came to an end in 1991 when Joe Hamilton died of cancer. His passing signified the conclusion of a significant personal and professional partnership that had flourished throughout the 1980s. In spite of all that was going on in her life, Burnett was a vocal advocate for public health issues, including as a successful campaign for Medical Alert. In a symbolic gesture, she became the 1 millionth member of the organization, commemorating her status as a reliable and esteemed public figure who could raise vital health awareness by receiving the 1 millionth Medical Alert bracelet. Carol Bernett wed again on November 24, 2001, to Brian Miller, a gifted drummer who was 23 years her junior. Significant age difference. This marriage occurred many years later. After all she had been through, Burnett was still willing to start over, and her marriage was a reflection of that. Her openness to love and friendship, despite cultural expectations regarding age and background, was on full display in her relationship with Miller. All of these connections weave together to form a beautiful tapestry that shows Carol Burnett's private life, her compassion, her resilience, and how she was able to use her struggles for advocacy and public service. Her personal life, professional successes, and marriages were all interdependent. Development, depicting a lady who has lived her life to the fullest, loved profoundly, and made numerous significant contributions to society throughout her life. Carol Bernett and Harvey Korman's complicated relationship is frequently portrayed in the media as a blend of profound love, collegiate, and inventive genius. Nevertheless, hidden behind their well-known comedy pair there was an emotional undercurrent on The Carol Bernett Show that was less well-known and more turbulent. Carol Bernett, according to several accounts, was actually harboring sentiments that were much beyond her usual level of professional annoyance. Of everyone in her life, she despised Harvey Korman the most. Years of working closely together, under the heavy requirements of television production, are what gave rise to this deep hate, rather than a single incident or an overnight sensation. Their routines were memorable because of the audience's observation of their impeccable comic timing and electric chemistry. Beneath the scenes, Burnett had a hard time making peace with the man she collaborated with, and the man she occasionally harbored intense animosity towards. The erratic behavior and challenging character of Corman were significant factors in the animosity that Burnett felt towards him. Many knew Corman to be extremely emotional and volatile, with a tendency to explode at the slightest provocation or stressful event. Burnett, who came from a modest family and worked hard in his life, found this unprofessionalism and lack of discipline extremely distressing. In her opinion, Corman's mood swings may infect the entire crew and cast by destroying the creative atmosphere they relied on. The occasional haughtiness and feeling of entitlement on Corman's part allegedly wounded Burnett. Despite their shared high talent, Burnett frequently felt that Corman undervalued her efforts and the sacrifices she made to ensure the program ran well. She thought he was the kind of person who was quick to claim credit for his own achievements, but slow to express appreciation to those who had a hand in advancing his career. Burnett felt this disrespect particularly acutely because of her personal problems and insecurities in the male-dominated entertainment industry of that era. The strain was further intensified by interpersonal conflicts. Privately, Burnett frequently felt irritated by Corman's coldness or lack of warmth, despite her reputation for being a caring and generous person. Their connection that developed off-camera never materialized, and Burnett occasionally felt lonely and lacking emotional support. Because their happy public image was so at odds with this inner distance, her anger towards them grew. Years later, in interviews, Burnett was forthright about how difficult and convoluted her sentiments were for Corman. While she did acknowledge that, though, she appreciated his comic brilliance and acknowledged his indisputable talent, she occasionally found herself unable to tolerate him. During times of dispute, or when Corman's actions disturbed the peace of their workplace, her feelings of disappointment, rage, and frustration sometimes verged on actual hatred. This is since Burnett and Corman spent so much time together throughout the show's run. It was impossible to escape or disregard the awkward situations, which only served to heighten their already intense animosity. Their relationship necessitated closeness and cooperation, which amplified any annoyance or grievance. Because Burnett wanted to keep her professionalism intact, she had to repress a lot of her anger while filming and making public appearances, which added to the weight of these emotions. The depth of Burnett's emotional commitment in the situation was partially reflected in her animosity for Corman, program, and her collaborators. After years of working together productively, the emotional toll of a creative partnership breakup can be devastating. At times, a poisonous dynamic resulted from unfulfilled expectations, interpersonal conflicts, and professional demands, and this led Burnett to harbor the strongest unfavorable sentiments she has ever had towards somebody. The reality behind the show business gloss is ultimately demonstrated by this difficult connection. The reality behind the scenes was much more chaotic, fraught with emotional turmoil, and fans remember Burnett and Corman as the ideal comedy pair. Paradoxes, power struggles, and the intense, often hostile emotions that result from a collision of two powerful personalities. Carol Burnett's deep and sincere confession that she despised Harvey Corman more than anybody else highlights the complexity and humanity of the connections concealed beneath the surface of the laughs.